morning on this Thursday morning, the 19th week in Ordinary Time. Today we'll continue into Ezekiel chapter 12, but I do want to talk about the reading that would have been yesterday's, but we skipped over it unfortunately because it was the feast day of St. Lawrence. Unfortunately, in the sense of the flow of studying Ezekiel. Celebrating St. Lawrence's feast day is always a good thing. But I just want to make just a couple remarks about yesterday's first reading. It would have been yesterday's first reading if we didn't have the feast day of St. Lawrence. So in yesterday's first reading, it was chapters 9 and 10. So a little bit of 9, a little bit of 10. Two separate instances that the church put together into one reading for yesterday's reading. And chapter 9, Ezekiel gets a vision where he's commanded by the Lord to put what's called a towel. That's the Greek letter that resembles our T. Or in other words, you can even say that it looks like a cross. That Ezekiel was commanded to put a cross on the foreheads of those Israelites that were upset with the abominations that was happening in the temple. So those who lamented the abominations of the temple, the cross was put on their foreheads, and they were saved from destruction. It reminds me a lot of the Passover, right, where the Israelites were told to put the blood on the doorpost, and then the angel of death would pass over them in Egypt. That last plague before the Exodus happens. Put the blood on the doorpost and the angel of death will pass over. And that's kind of the similarities that we see in Ezekiel chapter 9. Instead of the blood, it's now a cross. Put the cross on the forehead, you will be saved. And then those who supported the abominations that was happening in the temple would be destroyed. Now on top of that, in chapter 10, we have the vision of the glory of God leaving the temple. That is a huge thing, huge significance for the Israelites, for the nation. Remember when Solomon built the temple, the final act was the consecration of the temple, and the glory of God in the form of a cloud descended upon the temple, and the glory of God rested in the temple. Now in Ezekiel, because of the abominations that was happening in the temple, we see now the glory of God leaving towards the east gate, towards the east. But before it leaves, it stops at the gate. And in chapters 11, Ezekiel gives two oracles. One of judgment, against those who supported the abominations of the temple. But here's the most important thing, and this is why I really wanted to mention this. The second oracle in chapter 11. Okay, so as the glory of God still resides at the east gate, about to depart, Ezekiel gives another oracle of that of consolation and restoration, where the Israelites will have a new heart and a new spirit. Meaning that this kind of glory of God leaving the temple is only going to be temporary. He's going to return, but it's going to look different. It's going to look different. It's going to be a new heart and a new spirit. I think us, in the Christian sense, we can say that this is the Holy Spirit. Like us looking back at it now. Again, the Israelites during the time of Ezekiel wouldn't know exactly what he was talking about or referring to. But we now who know the rest of the story, it's the Holy Spirit, okay, and this new covenant. Now, briefly, I also want to look at today's first reading, which comes from Ezekiel chapter 12, which, again, is quite humorous. So God now wants Ezekiel to be a sign to the people. And he tells him to dress like one who's going to be in exile. And we might not think much of it. We say, okay, well, he's going to wear a different set of clothes. Actually, really, if he was to be dressed like one going into exile, he probably would have been naked, which, again, might have been the tactic that armies might have done to humiliate the people. They literally to strip them of everything. In fact, the phrase in Hebrew, to be in exile, comes from the root meaning to be naked. So the phrase to be exiled comes from the root to be naked in the Hebrew. And so it's this idea of losing everything, losing everything. And if you kind of think about it, when you're being lifted up from your current place of residence into a foreign land, it's like your whole life is being start over again. Not only are you in a new place, new situation, but you have a new routine. You have everything is unknown to you. You have to learn everything new again. And so kind of the spiritual significance in the exile is that sometimes in life we have to kind of just start over. We have to change our habits. We have to change the way we think, the way we see things. Sometimes God does this in our lives as kind of like a purification, so that in the emptiness he can be filled. God that is can fill the emptiness that we leave in our own little exiles in life. Our own little change of hearts in life. So again, thinking like the season of Lent, we fast, we do acts of penance, we simplify our life. The idea is not just for the sake of doing it. It's to empty, so then God can fill the void. God can fill the void. And so that's kind of like the sort of maybe the message God's trying to impart to the Israelites. It's a words of judgment. You're going to be exiled again. This is to the remaining people that are still in Jerusalem. They're going to be exiled as well. The temple is eventually going to be destroyed. That's why the glory of God leaves the temple, because the temple is going to be destroyed very soon. And the people there are going to be exiled. They're going to have to start over. But the idea is, it might seem like a punishment, but there's also a restoration and redemption fact in it. And I think in our daily lives, maybe even a daily part of our lives, but weekly, monthly, seasonal, yearly, we just have to have these moments where, we have to empty. We have to be able to let go. Again, a constant theme that I've been saying, being able to let go. Enjoy life, but also be ready to let it go, so that we can be filled with the grace and love of God and the blessings that he wishes to bestow on our lives. Thank you, and God bless, and see you tomorrow.